Now let's take a look at the value, the importance, the necessity for a good night's sleep. Without a good night's sleep, everything else goes downhill. So important is not even the right word. It's an absolute necessity to focus on what we call sleep hygiene. And good sleep hygiene comes from knowing how to get a good night's sleep, understanding that the earlier you go to bed, the better it is for you, and the earlier you wake up, the better it is for you. Now, everybody's different, and I know that everybody has their own schedule and different requirements, I could say, for what they need to do with their time. But if you can understand that you need to get at least 7 to 8, even 9 hours of sleep every night, and it has to be quality sleep. And there are a lot of different things that impact that quality of sleep. But please, let's first talk about how valuable this sleep is, because it helps to boost your immune system. And if you get a good night's sleep, it helps you prevent weight gain. It helps strengthen your heart. Better sleep equals better mood. It can increase your productivity, and it also increases your exercise performance. Not only that, it improves memory, and less sleep has literally proven to be dangerous. So I don't need to beat this into the ground. Just understand how important sleep is. I want to go in a little bit more detail about how valuable sleep is. It's important for a number of brain functions, including how the nerve cells or neurons literally communicate with each other. And recent findings suggest that sleep plays a role in removing toxins from your brain that build up while you're awake. Some of the most serious potential problems associated with chronic sleep deprivation are high blood pressure, diabetes, heart attack, heart failure, and even stroke. Other potential problems include obesity, depression, impairment in immunity, and for us, it lowers your sexual function. So, pretty clear, pretty obvious. Now, what does this mean in terms of how we get a good night's sleep? Well, number one, be very careful about your caffeine consumption, because too much caffeine creates that cortisol release in the body, and especially if you're drinking it later in the day, it's going to impair your sleep. So be aware of when is the last time you drink that coffee. And there's other ways to boost your energy. You can do breathing techniques. You could take other supplements like ginseng and green tea. They don't have that same impairing effect on the quality of sleep that you need to have that strong erection. All right, now let's talk about circadian rhythm. This has a big impact on our sleep. Human beings are diurnal creatures, not nocturnal creatures. Nocturnal creatures are awake at night and sleep during the day, but we are diurnal, meaning that we are sleeping at night and awake during the day. And our circadian rhythm plays an important part of our overall functioning and immune system, and of course, our ability to get a strong erection. Circadian rhythms are physical, mental, and behavioral changes that follow a 24-hour cycle. These natural processes respond primarily to light and dark, and they affect almost every living thing. So what this means is we have to be very careful about what kind of light we are exposing ourselves to throughout the day. In the morning, the best thing that you can do when you wake up to get your circadian rhythm in the natural state is to go outside, or literally open the window and put your head outside and get that natural light into your eyes for at least 2 to 10 minutes. 2 is the absolute minimum, better to get 5 or 10 minutes. So right after you wake up, instead of turning on a phone or a screen, which has a very detrimental effect on the brain first thing in the morning, you want to go outside or stick your head outside and get that fresh air. Also good to take a few deep breaths. Maybe you can do some exercise out there. Now that's not always possible, I know, in the cold weather climates, but even sometimes when we wake up, it's still dark out. So the other thing that you can do is turn on the brightest lights that you have. And these will help to activate the cortisol in the morning, which is what we want to be able to awaken and motivate ourselves for movement, work, whatever we're gonna do in the morning and throughout the rest of the day. On the flip side of that is what happens in the evening. Now, very often we are looking at the phone, looking at some sort of screen, either on a computer or a television or on the phone, and that light, especially the blue light that comes from those screens, really keeps the brain activated and interferes with our sleep patterns. So try to get away from the screen an hour before going to sleep. And it's also important to try to get to sleep before midnight. We've talked about the duration of sleep, trying to get at least 7 to 9 hours. That's depending on you. Some people can sleep and function highly with a little bit less hours of sleep. Other people need more, 8 or 9. So start to experiment and see what happens if you go to bed earlier and wake up earlier. Because when we wake up with the sun, we wake up with the natural rhythm of the earth, and that impacts our circadian rhythms directly. Now, one more important thing to consider when we're talking about our circadian rhythms and sleep is the hormone melatonin. Melatonin is responsible for many biological functions, and it's produced by the pineal gland in the brain. This is important for maintaining the biological clock and adjusting the body rhythm. And with this understanding, we get to realize how important these yogic practices are for balancing the pineal and pituitary glands that regulate the function of the distribution of these hormones throughout our bodies. So that's another reason why we're going to really focus on some breathing techniques, because once we bring that melatonin production and distribution into balance, that's going to help us get another good night's sleep as well.